Hello and welcome back to my channel. I just want to give a special thank you to everybody who's subscribed so far. And if you're new, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and make your comments. I want to know what you're thinking and what you would like to see in the future. This video right now is going to be everything that I went through before I got my diagnosis of cervical cancer. So everything leading up to it, the tests that I've had, what I went through, and everything that I can think of to add to this. For quite a long time, I would say over a decade, sex has been painful, and towards the end of it, in the last 7 years or so, it was followed by a little bit of spotting. I talked to my doctors multiple times, and I was always told, oh, your pap smear's fine, it's just you, someone that just happens to. And after 3 doctors, I thought, maybe they're right, maybe it is just me. So I just thought, I'm not going to mention it anymore because they won't do anything. My pap smears are fine, so I might as well just let it go. It's just me. So I had my children, but after that, just sort of new mommyhood, I lost track of time, didn't go for my pap smear every year like I should have. And I know the year before I was diagnosed, I didn't get a pap smear. But that was because my medical insurance changed through work. My doctor no longer took my medical insurance, so I had to be out looking for a new one. And I called probably about 7 different offices, and they either weren't accepting new people or they never called me back, and I couldn't get a hold of anyone. And I said, this is crazy. I can't deal with this. I'm switching insurances next year, and I'm going to go next year, and that's it. So leading up to that, starting that year, I started having a lot of watery discharge. I am in my 40s, I'm premenopausal, and everybody I talked to who has already gone through menopause said, that's normal, it's normal. And it was always happening when I was in my fertile time period, which makes sense, and everybody told me it was normal. And I had a little bit of spotting sometimes during that same period, during my fertile period, and everybody told me that's completely normal. Sometimes when you ovulate and the egg is released, it can cause a little bit of bleeding, and it was never a lot. So I thought, okay, that's probably just what it is. And the wateriness got a little bit worse. I remember one time we went out to eat, and I had to leave because the pad that I was wearing couldn't hold it all. And I was a little bit embarrassed because it didn't quite look like I peed in my pants, but it was really, embarrassing. So we had to go, and we went home. But that didn't happen all the time. But a few months before I had my pap smear, sometimes during my periods, I was bleeding so much. Not enough to like bleed through a pad an hour, but it just felt like it was just kept on going, and they were longer than they usually are. And once again, a lot of the women I talked to who are older said, oh, that's normal, menopause, you don't have to worry about anything. I went through the same thing. So I was like, okay. But one of these periods, I was a little concerned. I'm like, this is not normal. So I went to the urgent care because that's what the doctors made me do, and talked to the doctors. They ran a few tests, and they said, it's just menopause. You're perimenopausal. It's fine, don't worry about it. So I was like, okay. But then I think 2 months after that, I went in for my pap smear, and I had the bleeding issue. And after that, I hadn't heard anything about my results. And so I guess my results are normal. But about a month later, I got a phone call from my doctor. And she said, well, we found some abnormal cells on your pap smear. Say what? And we ran it up and tried to find out if you have HPV, and you tested positive for HPV 16. Say what? I was on the phone with my husband, and both of us were a little shocked. I don't know if any of you have gotten diagnosed with HPV, and just the emotional torment and all of the feelings, and just, it was not a good time. I felt dirty. I felt unclean. I didn't even want my husband looking at me. Going to work, I was embarrassed. Like, what if they know? It was not comfortable in my own skin for a while. And then the doctor, of course, said, what we're going to do next is a colposcopy, take some biopsies. Because of your age, if you're over 40, they also take scrapings of your uterus just to rule that out as well. So I went in for the procedure. It's just in your doctor's office. You go in the stirrups as usual. They get a big light and some kind of like microscopy type thing to look at your cervix really well. My doctor did give me some injections of, I think it was lidocaine or something to numb me up. So she did biopsies, 3 biopsies, one at 12, I think 3 and 9. And they went up the cervix and did scrapings of the upper part and also my uterus. That was an interesting experience. It seemed to last for a really long time, and it was very uncomfortable, and I was just trying to like put myself in a happy place, and I was trying to do Lamaze breathing just to focus on something else, and they thought I was in a lot of pain, but I was just trying to get my mind off of the whole experience. And at one point I put my hand on my stomach and I could feel where she was scraping the uterus. It wasn't super painful, but it was uncomfortable, especially knowing what was going on and why. It was not a very happy experience, but it could have been a lot worse. Afterwards, I did a little bit of bleeding, but nothing too bad. And then after that, I found out the results. It was supposed to take a week, and it took closer to 2. My doctor said it would take a week. And so when it didn't come back in a week, I was a little bit worried. And of course, that's your first inclination, is to get nervous. What's going on? Oh my gosh, something's wrong. Working in the healthcare field, I know sometimes you get backed up, and so things can take a little bit longer. So I would rather have right results than fast results. So I calmed down and I said, okay, it's fine. They probably just need a little bit extra time. An extra week is not going to hurt. So I just relaxed with it, and then we got the results from my doctor, and it was adenocarcinoma in situ. And I'll go into the different types of cervical cancers a little bit in another video. This is just for my experience. So after that, the next thing was a cold knife conization. And that is preferred in this type of cancer, in situ cancer and stuff like that, over a LEEP, and I can go into that a little bit later if you would like. And so I had to go into the hospital under general anesthesia. I had here's your cervix, and they take a knife and sort of like take a cone out, and I had that done. And it was funny because they wanted to give me like Valium to get me from my hospital room, like the operating room, and they wanted to give me Valium. I am allergic to Valium. So they kept on trying to give me something else. And I said, I don't want anything. No, it's standard procedure. I'm like, I understand that. I'll be fine. I don't want anything. And I was completely fine. I didn't freak out. And I was actually making them laugh because sometimes I get stressful situations pop up. I can get a little bit goofy. And I was talking, they put the oxygen tube in my nose and it was hanging down. And I went, how do you like my mustache? And things like that. So I had them all laughing. So afterwards, actually, my mom started freaking out because they said I would probably be sleeping for an hour, and I was sleeping for 3 hours. They said, we're just gonna let her sleep. She's probably just really tired, which I was. So I got an extra nap in, and that was good. And one thing that the doctor said to my mom had a little bell go off. She said they had to do 2 passes. Why 2 passes? But gotta be positive. Not my doctor, but the doctor who helped her out said that 95 to 98% chance that this conization would be the last thing I would need. So we could hold on to that. 98%, and even 95%, this will be the last thing I need. It'll be fine after this. So, okay. So a week later, I had a doctor's appointment, and I was just like, she's probably just gonna check up to see how I'm feeling, how the bleeding's going and everything. So I go in by myself. My husband offered to come. I'm like, she's just trying to see how I'm doing after the procedure. So I went in by myself, and I closed the door, sat down, and she said, that didn't go the way we were expecting. you have invasive cervical cancer. What? There I was. There's the diagnosis. Invasive cervical cancer. So after that, I had to go to an oncologist that specialized in cervical cancer, so a gynecological oncologist, and that will be where I start off the next video. Thank you for hanging around for that story. I will talk to you again next time. Share the next part of my story with you. Subscribe, like, comment. Do you know anybody that's been diagnosed with cervical cancer or HPV? How did you feel, or how did they feel? You are not alone. You are not alone.